Hello everyone, it's Patty Behan and thank you for tuning in today. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a variety of clean and simple Christmas cards that are so easy to make. You'll be done with your Christmas card making in no time flat. You can mix and match the designs you'd like to make or stick to your favorite, and it only takes 2 stamp sets and a limited amount of supplies. So let's get started. To begin, we're going to make our first card on a distress heavyweight craft card base, and I've cut it down to 8.5 inches by 5.5 inches long, and then I scored it in the middle, and we're going to end up folding it in half. And then we're going to stamp our background first. We're going to use snowflakes, and I'm using the Oh Dear stamp set from Simon Hurley Create. So what I've done is I've positioned my snowflakes where I want onto the acrylic block here, and I've lined it up in the corner so that I can stamp multiple times, and I can do a bunch of these all in a row. And first thing you'll have to do is use the Emboss It clear ink pad to ink up the stamps. And then once they're inked up, you just stamp it down. And a little tip I have here is make sure you press down on each individual stamp just to make sure you get a good impression. And then once that's done, we're going to emboss it, and we're going to use the white superfine detail embossing powder by Reindeer. And I'm going to pour the powder over top of the inked images and then remove the excess. And as you can see here, I probably had a little static on my cardstock, so I'm going to remove that flyaway powder with a dry brush, and I'll melt it with the heated tool. And then once that's done, you can continue to stamp the rest of your cards if you're making multiples of these. Next, we're going to stamp our sentiment. And I have a piece of black cardstock cut to 2 inches by the length of however many times you'd like to stamp your sentiment. And I'm going to use the Wishing You a Very Merry Christmas stamp from the Oh Dear stamp set. And I'll apply it to the acrylic block. And first I'm going to use the anti-static pouch. So this will stop stray embossing powder from sticking to the cardstock. And we'll ink up the stamp. And let me put a piece of scrap paper underneath here. And then you'll stamp it down and pour powder over the top. And remove the excess. And before I heat this up, I'm going to do it one more time because I'm going to make a couple cards right now. So I'll ink up the stamp and then repeat that process. Now we can melt the powder. And then we'll put this aside to cool. Next, what I've done is cut out some reindeer from the Simon Hurley Create digital die cuts. These are available on reindeerink.com. When you purchase the Simon Hurley stamp sets, you can also purchase the digital die cuts. And then you'll want to cut out as many deer as you'll use. And then we're going to ink these up with jet black archival ink. Then you'll stamp it down, and then if it sticks to the stamp when you lift it up, you can press down on the edges to make sure you get a good impression. And then we'll move on to the next thing. Now I'm going to make our background and our accent strips for our cards. And I'm using the Tim Holtz Stampers Anonymous Perfect Plaid stamp. And I have a piece of the Heavy Stock Craft cardstock again, and I cut it to 5 by 7 so that it's slightly bigger than my stamp here. And I'm going to ink up the stamp with jet black archival ink. And then I'm just going to place the cardstock on top and then roll a brayer over top to get a good impression. And make sure you hold the paper still as you're doing that. And now we can use this to start making our cards. First thing I'm going to do is cut my 1-inch strip. Now, if you just want to make the cards that have the accent strip, you'll get 4 pieces out of here, but I'm going to just do 1 for the time being. So I'll get my paper trimmer and I'm going to trim off the brown edges close to the stamped image. And I'll go ahead and cut my 1-inch strip, and then I want to make it 5.5 inches long to go down the length of the card. Now that we have that, we can start to put everything together. I'm going to glue this down right here, and I'm not sure which deer I want to put. Let me see how this looks first. And I'm going to trim down my sentiment, and I think I'm going to try the white deer to see if that's better. Yes, I think that pops, so let's use that, and then we'll go ahead and we'll glue all these down. And I'm going to use some double-sided adhesive for the strip and the deer, and then some foam tape for the black sentiment. And once I glue that down, I have one finishing touch for this card, and that is I'm going to add some Christmas red stickles to the reindeer's nose. And before you squeeze it onto your card, make sure you test it on a piece of scrap paper to make sure the flowing easily. So this card is finished, and I'll bring it up closer so you can see it. Also, I made another version of this card, and I used white as a background and craft as the accent. So what I did was I stamped the plaid background on white cardstock, and I stamped just with jet black archival ink. I didn't emboss, and I used a craft reindeer and still the same sentiment. So that's that set of cards. And I'm going to show you what I did for my next set of cards. And I'll go back to this piece right here, and I'm going to use this to make a background. And I'm going to trim it down to 3 inches by 4¼ inches using the stamped part of this cardstock here. Okay, and I put it on a white background, and I use the white deer this time, and I'll glue these down with some double-sided tape and again foam for the black sentiment. Okay, so here is this one, and now let me show you another version. I used cardstock and the craft reindeer, and again I put those red stickles on the nose, and this is another idea I had for you. And now I have one more set that I just wanted to show you. I'm not going to actually make them, but what I did for this next set is I used the other stamp in the Perfect Plaids stamp set as my background and accent strip, and this time I chose another deer from the stamp set and put it like so. And then for this card I used the Christmas trees, and I stamped them in library green archival ink, and then I used some stickles in glisten to look like snow on the trees. And this one is super simple. I left off the snowflakes, so there's another couple ideas for you. So let me bring back these other cards to show you all the different variations you can make. You can use your own. There's also a sleigh in this stamp set. You can use a different sentiment and mix and match the designs in so many different ways. The possibilities are just endless. So I hope I've inspired you with some good ideas and armed you with the tools to get these done quickly and easily and still have fun making them too. And if you'd like to make this project, we have a link to the supply list in the description box below. Don't forget, for more crafty videos, please subscribe to our channel. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.